Yes. Okay.
Good. Yeah, you're on.
Well, thank you. Thank you all for coming. The Evident Interfaith Center's Lunch and Learn and the first day of World Interfaith Harmony Week, which we are celebrating with great enthusiasm. Shaykh Sheikh is presenting the third in a series, but no, it's the fourth in a series. Back in June, he spoke to us about basically about life after death. A glimpse into the beyond was the name of the talk in June, which came out of an accident he had, a life-threatening accident. And we got the idea that we could extend this into 3 more sessions, so they've been December, January, and February. This is the last one. As we kick off World Interfaith Harmony Week, we have something planned every day for the next week. So you can check our website, please, and find out more details about those things. And God, would you please do that acknowledge?
I will, certainly. I would like to acknowledge that we are indeed on Treaty 6 land, and we're all participants in that contract that was signed years in the late 1800s by the Governor General of Canada, Dominion of Canada at that time, and the Indigenous chiefs of this area. And that contract was called Treaty 6, and the contract basically said that the Indigenous people signed over access to all the land except small parcels in exchange for some money, some medicine, some farm tools, and some education. And the government of Canada indeed surveyed and settled all the land, but in fact reneged on their commitment to supply the things that were agreed in the contract. And so we've been dealing with that problem ever since, and we've made some progress in the last little while. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission established the kinds of things that still need to be done. And the Parliament of Canada recently passed a bill called C-15, in which they promised to examine all Canadian laws and find where there's any prejudice against Indigenous people and correct those prejudices. So we're in the process, and but it's still a dismal situation for Indigenous people, and we just want to recognize that it's part of Treaty 6, and we're trying to make some improvements.
Thank you, guys. Shaykh, please.
Hello, everyone. Just to focus a little bit, as Netta has said, we have started this after a near-death experience for me that gave me a chance to really think hard as I stayed in the hospital system for 4.5 months. Thank Allah that my mind was so sharp and my body was being looked after by caregivers who did a fantastic job putting me back together. And as I came to, I needed to think, as always, the fundamental question: where did we come from and where we're going? So I came up with that question that has been nagging me for a long time. So where do we go from here? If we don't know where we came from, we have a big question mark about where we're going. Do we actually know where we are? And from here on, just things evolve, and it is all really in the mind, individually, collectively, in the consciousness, in the universal consciousness. These questions are nagging all creatures. But just looking at this mug here that Netta has introduced, some tea and my sun cream, it says old enough to know better, too old to care.
I didn't read it, I'm sorry.
Yeah, oh, you don't have to be sorry about that, but this is really where we are. Just we are in a very central limbo that we're trying to figure out. So from here on, The title of the session today is, so what's out where? We have dealt with, are we predestined? Or do we have choices? We have dealt with the two entities that each one of us possess. So now we're looking outwards. What's out where? And if you notice, this question is very specific that has two elements, the what and the where. So let's deal with the what first. And I would like people to participate. We don't have too many attendees, but just try to participate. When we are brought on to this world, we have caregivers that tend to our needs. And then we get into life and we tend to our needs and we tend to other people's needs and we tend to our wants and our inquisitive mind. And we try just to have a life. But a few months ago, my son Almar has put a question on the dinner table. What's there to live for? And I was stunned because having lived all this life so far, I still cannot answer this question straightforward. So again, things are evolving in a way, but we only have maybe an hour to talk. So let's deal with the what. As we grow up, we are told about God, about angels, about devils, about Satan. Recently, we are told about aliens. We are told about UFOs. We are told about visiting bodies from somewhere else. We are told about ancient civilizations. We are told about open-ended questions that you can't really grasp it. But then, again, do you care? The answer is yes, you should. You can't throw everything and say, I don't care. Because if you don't care, you really don't know where you're going from here. And I would say, from all what we collectively know, you could be in trouble. Because you could be going somewhere where you're not going to be comfortable. We have traditions. We have teachers. We have experiences. We have a lot that we need to tap into to try just to see our way through, if we can see a glimpse of light at the end of the lifetime. So, what are we going to deal with this of all these that I have mentioned before? Well, how can you grasp your mind around what I just mentioned, the things that we're told? So let's just deal with the main issue. What is God? This is a point of contention. If you ask anybody in particular, nobody can define God. If you ask those who claim knowledge, they pull knowledge from what they have told. But then again, let's just put things on the ground here. We are told about a lot of things. But then again, we have a mind that divulge into science, into research, into wondering, into contemplating, into this and that. So all what I'm trying to do today is to make the religious aspect meet with the scientific aspect. So we can find a spot that we are comfortable to be in. So, again, we believe that there is God. There is a God. People have searched or needed some deity to worship. And in every case, individual people has taken over and claim to be that deity. The example we have, very vivid, is Moses. When Moses was sent to Pharaoh of Egypt, the issue was Pharaoh was claiming to be God of the universe he is controlling. And without going into the details of Moses' stories, the issue was Moses, with the help of Aaron, came to tell Pharaoh, you are not God. And he challenged them on that, and he perished. What did Moses and Aaron end up doing? Ended up taking the Israelites out of Egypt. And Egypt has never recovered ever since. All what you have in Egypt is relics. And if you go into the history, you'll see the Greeks had moved in, the Phoenicians has moved in, the Romans have moved in, just civilizations took over. But Egypt as a civilization has never recovered till now. Just a few minutes ago, we were talking about Egypt being in an economic crisis that can put her under. A few years ago, I was talking to a prominent person in Egypt, and he just shook his head and said, I am baffled how Egypt still surviving with all the chaotic issues that has been there since I was born. Again, I was born in 49, after a long battle. Israel has been established in 48. 56, another war with the English and the French and Israel. 67 marked my high school graduation. Another war, the 6-Day War. Graduating from university shortly after, the 73 war, the Yom Kippur War. So I left. This is an environment since before you were born till you decide to go. Doesn't make sense. Why are people fighting? So this is the story which I added a little bit to my thoughts so my sons here can really grasp the issue. Then the Israelites were guided by Moses and Aaron and were taken out of Egypt. And here is something different from what everybody has been talking about. I myself, following the story and the logic, I don't think the Israelites has gone through Sinai. I think they went through that little small thing by Yemen there, where Eden was. That's a place which they can cross overnight on foot if the sea is parted there. And if you follow how the Jews were established in Yemen, how from there on they were established in Ethiopia and Africa, the flashes there and the whole thing. And then from there on, they moved in all directions, but they settled up. So what happened a couple of millennia later? Jesus was born. What is the issue of Jesus? The issue of Jesus is very simple. It is miraculous. Why? Because Mary has conceived a child without the participation of man. How do we know that? We are told. There's no way we can prove. And we has to either take it or leave it. You take it, we keep going. You leave it, you are on your own. So, in the story, by an angel, Jesus managed to conceive a man, and we don't know how. We cannot work out the dynamics. But again, in the Quran, which is really my main reference, the creation of Jesus is the same miracle that Adam was created by. Not explained. The issue was Allah's creation, that if He wants something to be, it is. So let's, before get into the Jesus story, we go into what we are told about the Adam creation story. Adam was created by Allah, and Allah has blew into him from his soul. And this is repeated in different scriptures. From Adam, Eve was created, or a female companion was created. The details are irrelevant. But what we have is a male and female humans from which all of us has come down in a human assembly line, production line. But what we have their material structure, and we have a piece of Allah's soul. This has been passed to us throughout generations. So what about the Neanderthals? I don't know. But we are a particular human species. We have the earthly material, and we have soul, Allah's soul. So why I'm saying Allah shifted from God to Allah, because Allah is very specific. God is very generic. So I'm going to stick with that, and maybe it's best if I just switch into the Creator, in which Allah has said you can call him anything as long as your intentions go in calling him that. So we are created from the lineage of Adam and Eve all the way down to Mary. And then we have Jesus coming in. Why? Actually, we don't know, but this is the story of life. Jesus is coming from a Jewish family to tell the Jews in general, you have transgressed over what you did. Basically, that was that. And Allah is saying that Jesus is a word. Did you hear that before? That he's a word? Which you cannot really understand how is that put together. So Jesus did his teaching, his preaching, lived his life however small or big it is. People took over and started teaching what's known as Christianity, which right now is so broken into so many denominations that living here in Canada, I just find out that just about every church has its own teaching setting. And that took 5 or more centuries. And then comes Muhammad. Why? What does Muhammad do? What's the point of in the middle of nowhere in the Arabian Peninsula? Here is born a guy who was given not a word, but a book. That is baffling. So far, I have read this book over 500 times with the intention of understanding, not with the intention of memorizing or chanting or meditating. I wanted to understand. And of course, I cannot go through a lot in here, but I'm going to go through just one passage. I think I mentioned before that Allah said that He created heavens and earth in 6 days. And that just is not sitting well with anybody. But then again, in the same passage, He's saying that a day of Allah's count is equal to 1,000 years of your count. That day concept was thrown off. In another passage, say a day where the angels of the soul and the good deeds go up to Allah takes 50,000 years. And then I start to wonder, are we talking years time-wise or years light years where you're counting distance, or are we talking what? And then you start to think, so maybe the problem is in the word day. It's not the day that we know of. The day that we know of is where the earth revolves around itself once. So maybe a day in Allah's count is the time the universe revolves all around itself. Maybe, I don't know. But in that sense, how big is Allah? Your mind cannot wrap yourself around that concept of, if we're talking about size, existence, you can't. Then in another passage, you'll see that Allah is saying that we are closer to the human than his jugular vein. So, what are we talking here about? We're talking about science still studying the universe. Universe is still expanding, and we're still going distances into the outer space to try to see what's out there. And there are some scientists that are trying to go into the body, into the cell, to see how far they go in, all the way to the strings and that form the matter. Some are going into the oceans, trying to find out what's in there. So, again, if we are dabbling with the question, where we're going from here, we might as well try to find out where we are. As simple as that. And and then we are told about angels. And how's that affecting our life story as a whole? Again, don't have any proofs, but we cannot ignore that piece of knowledge that angels do exist in their own hemisphere. We are told about the Satans and the jinn kind. We have no proof, but we cannot deny that there is something of that nature that exists around us that causes all kind of problems, because that's their mandate, we are told. We know a lot of people that died over time. We don't know where they are. We know their bodies has been recycled into the environment. But we don't know the piece of Allah that is in those people when it was released, where they are. We sense some of them are around. We sense some sort of communication. And as I mentioned in my accident, the video that pictured the accident itself was new to me because my vision was very different. I was communicating to my parents, my sister, my brother, that if I'm going to go through this, I need my brain. So I know they're around. I know that the barrier that we are told about, the barrier that the soul goes beyond or behind when people die, I know it is not solid. There is this kind of communication that happens. Everyone I talk to has some experience that some can't even tell others about it. Very personal experience. Because it's not explained and because it could not be proven, people rather keep it to themselves. So, what's out there? What's out here? where we're coming from, where we're going. It's all, as far as I can tell, is predetermined, pre-documented. We are applying it, manifesting it. We are going from one thing to another to another. We accept what happens to us, we deal with it, and we move on. And I would like to know how are we doing time-wise? If anybody wants to say,
We started late, Sheikh, so I
okay,
think we're gonna go over
as long
the
as we are comfortable.
past 11, past
But-
1 o'clock.
But the other thing that we probably all privy to is all the advancement that happens in science, which is basically collective understanding of our passage. And we are told about a lot of things. Then again, you believe it or you don't. It's up to you. But to answer Alma's question, why do we need to live? We don't have any choice. We are on this track of life and we have to see it through, and we actually don't have any choice. The choices are always into what do we need to do. And I just have to hand it in for now. Some people opt out and they want to have to die. And sometimes that happens, sometimes they can't. Now Canada is leading the world into the euthanasia issue, where they offer people to die if they want to.
Maybe they're just releasing their souls.
Right, I mean?
Maybe they're just releasing their souls.
That's fine, and some people are comfortable with that. And I have no issue with anything. I'm just saying this is a very personal choice. And everything is a personal choice. But you only have to answer to your creator. So it's best if you initiate a relationship with that creator, and everybody else would be a sidekick. This is the only way you can tell where we're going or where you are going. It's not whom you love, it's not whom you care for, it's not whom you do this or that. It is really understanding where you are going or where you expect to go. We have basically 5 needs to survive. We need air to breathe, we need food to eat, we need water to drink, we need a shelter, we need to have sex for procreation. This is a need. What we want is a different story. How much do we want of what we want is a different story. And it is a very individual thing.
These are only physical needs. It's also emotional needs.
There is a lot of other needs. There's a lot of other needs. There is companionship, there is this, but I'm saying to survive.
As a
But
physical
yeah.
entity.
So, I mean, the conversation is open. This is not a topic that is going to come in an end. Except if the human life on earth will end.
Join the table.
Pardon me?
You wanna join
Oh,
the table?
sure, come on in. Come on in, because, yeah, I mean, I put together some key points. But then again, the presence of other people can influence the discussion. We missed you.
I sort of be disrupted, the back door rang.
Yeah.
I wasn't fast enough, somebody in the parking lot said, oh, she went around to the front. So I went around to the front and there's nobody there, so I'm sorry, it's one of the limitations of this building.
Great, there is another thing that I can put on the table, I don't know. If you don't go there, just let me know. In the Quran, there's a reference to something called Laylatul Qadr, which has been translated as the night of power. And because I picked up a professional interpretation translation, I always have issues with what's being used. For me, it's not the night of power. It's the night of sun. Sun, S-U-M. This night is big.
Is that the ascension?
It is big. No,
Then
no,
it's-
it has nothing to do with that change. Yeah, the story of the night journey and the ascension is a totally different story.
Okay.
But no, this is a reference to the night of power, which is what? The chapter or the surah that this came in is very small, just 3 verses. That we have descended the Quran in the night of sun. This night of sun is better than 1,000 months in life, which is about 84 years, about the lifetime of a human being. In this night, angels and the soul has descended, and it is peaceful until dawn. So it's very specific that we're not talking about a full day duration. We're talking about a night. A nighttime. We are talking about something peculiar. That's where the Quran descended to the earth's atmosphere or domain. It took Prophet Muhammad 23 years to relate that to the people. But the reference is it's only a few moments. It's just a glimpse of time. That's very. So I came up with the question. If Laylatul Qadr is a time, a very momentarily time of peculiar value that has to be within nighttime, and it's very powerful, and that's where this Quran has descended. I asked a simple question. So if somebody is in Mecca, for example, and happen to sense that this is the time of Laylatul Qadr, let's say around midnight, when would that be in New York?
7
When would that be in Melbourne?
hours.
What I'm saying is, if it has to be night, it cannot go into daytime. So it has to be behind the sun. So considering that Earth is revolving, the night of sun is a stationary beam of, the only thing I can think of like a scanner is the beam in the scanner. that is shining over the earth from, let's say, the pole to the pole in a lateral thing. And because the earth takes 24 hours revolving on itself, so the night of ours actually at 24-hour time. But the explosion of the earth is only momentary. And again, to make a long session short, I think that this is the mechanism, the process in which all what happens on Earth in a year is scanned up to heaven. And as I said in other passage, this process for the deeds or for what's documented in evidence that's happened to go up to heaven could take 50,000 years of our time. So again, that's how vast that universe is. And again, if we are talking about the universe in a material sense, we should think of God as the consciousness of that universe. So we still have a lot of thinking, a lot of dialogue. Like there was someone who attended the first session about my accident. And when I talked to him on the side, he said, yeah, that was all good. I heard it before, but the most important thing is to keep the dialogue going. And that's what we are missing. And that's what, like an organization like this has a major value. Doesn't include or exclude people by any means, except, come on, let's talk. So I don't think I should really push my luck here. I'm really happy to have us all.
I was just kind of theorizing
Sure.
that, since time is, to a certain extent, based on the observer, like a hummingbird experiences time that's slower, the tortoises experience it faster. That's, to be clear, I am not in any way an expert on this, but drunks experience it slower, so it's like instead or faster depending on the situation that they happen to be in. And whereas time, relativity and all is based on the experience of the observer, then in the case of, the night, the night could be based on the experience of the individual observer, and God, of course, being everywhere, the universal
Yeah.
observer is able to, and also able to pick his own time, is able to kind of square the circle as well.
Fine. I mean, that's all what I'm driving is people to think, come with own vision, conclusion, whatever. But you don't drop the ball. You drop the ball, you are irrelevant. Passing the ball, that's really good. We are still recording, right?
Yes.
So we will come to a conclusion with the question, so where do we go from here? The story continues.
Try and summarize what I think I've heard you say.
Sure.
I think I've heard you say that scientists have explored the universe. And they've gone to the furthest dimensions that we can see in time, space, and have found no heaven. Scientists have gone to the smallest particle in the world, the atoms, found no God or heaven. And gone to the bottom of the sea, and found no God or heaven. So I think they are showing us that our our senses, all our five senses, cannot observe something that's non-physical.
Okay.
And so the concept of heaven, the concept of God, is a non-physical entity.
Okay.
So which we cannot define and discover with our limited tools of
This is
search.
a genuine science question. Is energy physical?
Dark energy certainly isn't.
I think
Or
the answer is no,
that
I
is-
think. but-
The question of physical, I guess, does it have physical effects or can be, detected and biting again, or two different things. That, you get dark energy, dark matter, all of that, and just to make the models work, they have to presume that there's like some massive whack of energy and matter that exists, but that we can't sense in any actual sense that we have.
And it's based on presumption.
Yeah, it's to make the model work, essentially, to be like, well, otherwise, again, I know basically nothing about physics, but.
Neither, that's why I'm asking the question.
Yeah, we know that energy and matter convert back and forth. So they're,
Yeah, sure.
And so-
Sure.
what you say about one is, you're saying the same thing about the other. So it leaves the question, well, where is this God? Where is this heaven?
Well, I would say there is a barrier that everything that we are told about is behind that barrier.
Yes. So we know that we have a good sense.
Yeah.
That God is real in our lives. And heaven is a promise of a wonderful future. These are things that most human beings accept. So we just don't know where that is.
Yeah, but it's just the word, even the word where is undefinable.
Exactly.
It's just when I said that you need to have a relationship with your own creator in one way, really, you cannot have that unless you manifest it into your own circle of environment, with the people you know, with the pets you have, with the you have to manifest it within what you know. There's something has been bugging me for quite some time, but I don't want to bring it in here. But simply I'm going to refer to it. What's happening in Russia, Ukraine? It's just a different thing, but maybe we can put the pin on it.
I love it.
Yeah, it's just the evil. Well, the evil in the world.
We consider it third power.
We're actually having a discussion on why bad things happen to good people on Thursday. Let's be more interested.
Yeah, thank you, good luck.
Thanks.
Yeah, well, what Guy said, I mean, many scientists of all fields are believers in a traditional sense. And they see no contradiction in that, and of course, there's no contradiction. But Jake, I neglected to say in the introduction, I'm sorry if you said anything about this when I left the room. You had the word paranormal in your title. Which well, to me, there is no paranormal. There is only normal, there's no subnormal, abnormal, supranormal, everything is normal. If we could see it, if we were smart enough, broad
But see it in a mindset.
Everything is normal.
Yeah, but you can see it in a mindset.
Yes,
Okay.
but I want it to be literal.
Yeah.
I would like my aim for my life is to have that, read that literal.
Yeah.
I'd like to share a quote that really helps me understand a little bit, and that is, God is the most manifest of the manifest.
Mm.
You see him?
Yep.
And the most hidden of the hidden.
I hate to tell you, he's not a him.
Oh, okay, I agree with him.
No.
I know you know that.
Let's not split hairs.
There's a great book written by Rabbi Cooper called God is a Verb. It's one of my favorite. God is a Right, it broadened my mind a bit.
I said
It's
Jesus.
the word. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Delightful topic. Thank you for introducing it. Chief.
Yeah, well, actually, it's very interesting to have
Oh, it
some
is.
minds to reflect on. Because you sit by yourself and you come with things that you think you're crazy. If you can't reflect with other people that
Yeah.
can just really give and take, you think you're separating.
Yeah, the existing.
And a correction, the discussion about the nature of evil is on Monday at 7 o'clock.
So
Not-
this really leads to another question we could deal with another time. Knowing what we know, how do we govern our lives to fit what we know?
That's a good topic.
That's kind of just like you have the answer to the initial question, which I first phrased.
Yeah, why don't
That's the
we
second.
put some questions and see if we can make meetings around these questions?
Sure.
As said, for me, I would like to deal actually with the issue of resurrection. Which, like, we have reincarnation that's been talked about, different religions. You have a lot of things that are put on the table recently, words that, like, for example, you brought up the word karma. I don't know much about karma. Almar has brought up the Eden Eagle. Cream has brought up singularity or Almar date or whatever. I mean, there are new words that are coming into life that we need to wrap our minds around it. But for me, I would like to put in the table the question of reincarnation versus resurrection. And are there any thoughts about this?
For another day, right?
Yes.
I'm sure
Yes. Well,
I
thank
think
you,
wrap up
thank
statements.
you, Sheikh. Thank you all for coming, and I'll be sending it as I said, an email in about an hour with all the details of all the next 6 days. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheikh. Been wonderful.
Thanks, Hanley, for attending. Yeah, well, I'll talk to you on the phone.
Thank you. Bye-bye, Don.